My maid impersonated me and secretly fell in love with Liamobai, who was staying at the Prime Minister's residence. And they became pregnant. Liamobai topped the high school entrance exams and later came to the Prime Minister's residence to ask for my hand in marriage. My father agreed. A maidservant, in despair, threw herself into a well, taking 2 lives with her own. On our wedding night, Liamobai realized I wasn't the woman he loved. Without letting on, he secretly investigated the matter and concluded that I had driven the maid to her death out of jealousy. Over the next 10 years, he rose rapidly through the ranks with the help of the Chancellor's influence. On the surface, he was gentle and considerate toward me. But when the Chancellor's household became embroiled in a treason case, he kicked me while I was down, causing my father's unjust death and the exile of our entire family. Under his torment, I, too, was thrown into a freezing pond in the dead of winter and drowned. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day he came to the Xiong residence to propose marriage. The bone-chilling cold and the suffocating sensation of near death still seemed to linger within my body. My face was pale, my teeth chattering slightly, as I stared silently at the youthful face in the mirror. Plotting how to kill Liamobai, I knew he would come to ask for her hand in marriage today. Make a big fuss about it so that everyone knows about it. Everyone says that the newly crowned top scholar fell in love with the Prime Minister's daughter at first sight, a match made in heaven. In FACT, it was Jing K, the maid by my side, who caught his eye at first sight. Liamobai and my family, the Nan family, are distantly related through a series of twists and turns. So while he was in the capital to take the imperial examinations, he stayed at the Chancellor's residence. My father valued talent and treated him with respect. My eldest brother has also mentioned him to me, saying he has the talent to be the top scholar in the imperial examinations. Jing K hatched a plan to impersonate me and approached him time and time again. The two quickly fell in love and even had a child. I don't have any romantic feelings for Liamobai, but I know this is a good match. The young top-ranked scholar is talented in his own right, and with my father looking out for him, he is sure to have a bright future ahead of him. Besides, my family is poor. I have only my elderly mother and we depend on the Prime Minister's household for everything, so no one dares to treat me badly. So when my parents asked me, I agreed to the marriage. However, this time, when Aunt Chin, who served my mother, came to find me, she said, "Young Masterly has asked for the hand of the maid Jing K, who serves you, and the lady has told you to decide for yourself." I knew right away that Liamobai had returned as well. Jing K took 3 days of sick leave, but in reality, she was experiencing a threatened miscarriage. She didn't dare overexert herself, so she stayed in bed all day and missed her chance to explain things to Liamobai. I took Aunt Chin to the side room to find her. At that point, she didn't show any signs of pregnancy yet. She just looked a little pale. I said, "The new top scholar is going to marry you." She looked both surprised and delighted, yet shy and flustered, and didn't dare to look me in the eye. She was very afraid that I would press her about her relationship with Liamobai, but I didn't ask anything. I had another maid, Ming Chan, help her get dressed and ready, and then take her to the front hall to receive guests. When Liamobai saw her, he was momentarily stunned, and then his eyes welled up with tears. He hadn't seen her in 10 years. When he looked at me again, his gaze was filled with hatred. My hatred is no less than his. I thought about hiding, but the moment I saw him, all the memories from my past life came flooding back. My father was beheaded. My mother died of illness while in exile. My older brother lost a leg. My sister-in-law took her own life to preserve her honor. And one of my nephews died while the other was injured. My family was destroyed and my loved ones were killed, all thanks to Liamobai. His heart was overflowing with hatred. It was so intense that he simply couldn't hide it. Liamobai paused for a moment. I knew he had figured it out. But I don't care. I said, "Jing K is a servant in my household. I don't know when the top scholar took a liking to her, but a gentleman should help others achieve their goals. And since the top scholar is determined to marry her, I, as her master, have no reason to object." I returned Jing's contract to her. "You're free now." Jean K was so moved that tears welled up in her eyes. Lee Mo-bai's expression was mixed as he bowed his fist to me in a gesture of respect. Intending to leave, I said again. Wait a minute. Lee Mo-bai looked back at me warily. A servant at the door ushered the doctor inside. I pointed at Jean K and said, Dr. Huang, please take this young lady's pulse. The magpie, startled, hid behind Lee Mo-bai. Lee Mo-bai shot me a look that was both disappointed and disgusted. No need. My mother saw what was going on and had two strong maids hold Jean K down, afraid of harming the fetus. Jean K dared not move, so she had no choice but to let Dr. Huang take her pulse. Her pretty face as white as a sheet. The pregnancy is a little unstable. But it's nothing to worry about. I'll prescribe some medication to help stabilize it, said Dr. Huang. My mother flew into a rage. You shameless creature. Jean K was both embarrassed and frightened. Her face flushed red. And she instinctively reached to kneel and admit her mistake. Lee Mo-bai held her back. You're no longer a servant in the Prime Minister's household. You don't need to kneel before them. He added. Lady Nan, Jean K is my fiancé. So please be careful with your words. He thought he was still a confidant of the crown prince and a close advisor to the new emperor, and that everyone had to kowtow to him. My mother was so angry she smashed a cup. My father, Liang, shot him a glance. The top scholar sure has a lot of nerve. How dare he lecture the lady of the chancellor's household? Lee Mo-bai's expression froze. He snapped back to his senses. Besides the unstable fetal position, are there any other problems? I asked. Dr. Huang shook his head. No. I looked at Lee Mo-bai. Listen carefully. Your fiancé left my chancellor's residence safe and sound. If she ever dies or is maimed in the future, don't you dare blame it on my chancellor's residence. Also, as for the maidservants in my household, if they engage in illicit relations with men outside the household without a matchmaker, the law allows for them to be put to death on the spot. In other words, I could kill Jean K out in the open. There's no need to drive her to her death on the sly. Lee Mo-bai understood, but looked hesitant. My dad told Lee Mo-bai to get lost. As he was running away, he ran into Zhao Si, who had just arrived on the scene. Zhao Si's could be heard shouting urgently, Uncle Nan, don't rush to betroth Sister Jinping to Lee Mo-bai, please consider me. His expression darkened, and he stopped rolling around. Zhao Si is the younger son of the Duke of Cheng'an and the Empress's nephew. We've known each other since childhood. He has two older brothers and an older sister, and the whole family spoils him rotten. Although he was a spoiled and arrogant young man, he wasn't entirely uneducated. During this imperial examination, he took a bet with someone and actually placed 37th in the second class. The sons of nobles and aristocrats don't rely on academic achievements. They just want to prove they're not good-for-nothings. And after that, they'll go back to being exactly the same as before. When he came to ask for my hand in marriage in a past life, I had already promised myself to Lee Mo-bai. But after weighing my options privately, I've come to realize that this marriage arrangement at the Duke of Cheng'an's mansion isn't a bad choice either. The elders are kind and loving, the siblings get along well, and Zhao Si's is the kind of man who'll take you out to eat, drink, and have fun when things are going well, and shield you from life's storms when times are tough. That turned out to be the case. After the incident at my family's home, he shook off his idle ways, used his family's connections to secure a government post, and worked tirelessly on our behalf. Later, it was he who found the crucial evidence that overturned my father's conviction and cleared the Nan family's name. This immense kindness is something I could never repay, even if I gave my life. My eyes welled up. Zhao Si was taken aback for a moment. Wait, are you scared or amused? I burst out laughing. Silly goose. Young Master Li is asking for Jink's hand in marriage. What's the rush? Zhao Si's was taken aback once again. He shot Lee Mo by a bewildered glance. Then after a long pause, managed to say, Brother Li, you really do have a unique eye. Lee Mo-bai's expression grew even more grim. Zhao Si's and I have set a date for our wedding. While I was out, Lee Mo-bai took the opportunity to talk to me. You paid the price for killing Jing K in your past life, so we're even. in this life. As long as you don't harm Jin-K and behave yourself, I won't take any further action against your Nan family, although Zhao Sai's isn't the ideal match. He's more than enough for you. Forget about me and live a good life with him. Put those malicious thoughts aside and stop trying to make things difficult for Jin-K. As for the time you exposed her pregnancy and embarrassed her, I won't hold it against you because you returned her indenture abu. If you don't change your ways from now on, don't blame me for being harsh. He stood high above, his face fierce, a chill in his eyes like icy arrows, exactly the same as when he had severed ties with me in his past life. But at that time, he was dressed in shoe brocade, wore jade boots, had a jade pendant worth of fortune hanging from his waist. And even the hairpin he casually used to secure his hair was made of rare ivory. Instead of the sky blue long robe he's wearing now, which has been washed until it's faded to a pale blue, doesn't have a single valuable item on him. Half of a person's dignity and presence come from their appearance. He was like an incompetent hothead, completely unaware that, as things stood, he had nothing left and absolutely no leverage to negotiate with me. I looked at him quietly. We're not even. He sighed and called me by my given name. Jinping, why are you doing this? I've never been attracted to a spoiled, uneducated woman like you. Jin-K already told me that your reputation for talent was built by her and Ming-chan. I suppose you knew all along about my relationship with Jin-K in our past life. Yet you deliberately went along with it to marry me and ended up driving her to her death. Never mind. You've been my wife for 10 years now. You should be content with that. He really is blind in both eyes and in his heart. In her previous life, Jin-K not only impersonated me, but also secretly copied the poems I had written. She applied everything: the music I played, the paintings I created, and even the unfinished chess games my older brother and I left behind to herself. Mo-bai was deceived by her and didn't know her true identity. It's understandable that he believed her to be a woman of great talent, but even after the truth came to light, he still let her lead him by the nose with just a few words. Isn't that just stupid? Mo-bai, I said, staring him straight in the eyes, my expression as cold as ice. My father, my mother, my sister-in-law, and my nephew 4 lives. You can't just say we're even and think it's settled. And the baby I'm carrying. Over the course of 10 years, she became pregnant 4 times, suffered 4 miscarriages, and ultimately became unable to conceive for the rest of her life. With all these incidents, he actually claims everything is settled. I gave a sarcastic smile. Mo-bai, this between you and me is a fight to the death. My father certainly didn't like Mo-bai. But I still poured fuel on the fire. That young man is deeply scheming and of questionable character. He's asking to marry my maid. Could have handled it discreetly, but instead he made a huge spectacle of it so that everyone would know. Everyone thought he was asking for the minister's daughter's hand in marriage. But in the end, he ended up marrying the maid who served her. If it weren't for Sijia, I'm afraid I would have become the laughingstock of all of Duanjing. He is the current top scholar, handpicked by the emperor. He shouldn't be acting so disgracefully. But that's exactly what he's done. Our daughter suspects he has sided with your political enemies. Father, you must be careful. My dad took it to heart. I repeated the story to the crown prince in much the same way, using a tone of complaint and confusion. And the crown prince immediately formed a negative impression of Mo-bai. The crown prince is Zhao Sai's cousin, and we're on fairly good terms. When he found out that Zhao Sai and I were engaged, he was delighted. You should thank Mo-bai. If it weren't for him, Sai wouldn't have rushed over to propose. He then said, "Zhe, what do you want? I'll give you a gift to celebrate." Zhao Sai was blunt. Your hot spring resort on the outskirts of Beijing. The crown prince was shocked by his shamelessness. Do you know how much this estate is worth? He said sheepishly. Jinping is sensitive to the cold. Yes, I'm sensitive to the cold. Mo-bai knew I was sensitive to the cold, so he chose the method I feared most to send me to my death. Mo-bai and Jin-K's wedding was set for the end of June. It was a rush. But there was no other choice if they waited any longer. She wouldn't be able to hide her pregnancy. Just as lively as his wedding to me was in our past life, so quiet is his wedding to Jin-K in this one. The new top scholar should have been the talk of the town. But everyone knew he had offended the minister, and no one was willing to cross the minister over a young man whose future was uncertain. Furthermore, the first-place winner was supposed to take up a post in the Hanlon Academy, but for some reason, while the second and third-place winners were both granted positions, no imperial decree had been issued regarding Li Mo Bai. Their wedding was held in a courtyard rented by the Li family. The space wasn't large, but Li Mo Bai spared no expense. He hired an outside catering service to prepare the food at 5 taels of silver per table, set up 10 tables, and even borrowed space from the neighbors. In the end, not a single official showed up, but the neighbors filled 2 tables. I heard that Li Mo Bai's face turned dark from start to finish. He thought my dad was meddling and had staked out the jewelry store again while I was there buying jewelry after 10 years of marriage. He really knows me well. Do you think I rose to such a high position in my past life because of your father? He said indignantly. The crown prince recognized my worth because we shared the same political views and interests, and because I had genuine talent and practical ability that could help him govern the country. He mocked me. You ignorant woman. With your narrow-minded views, do you really think this will stop me? In his previous life, thanks to my father's recommendation, he caught the crown prince's eye with an essay he wrote. My father mentored him personally, and since he was willing to work hard, he quickly made a name for himself. He was right about one thing. He really does have genuine talent and knowledge. But so what? I, the shopkeeper, asked. Why did a beggar come in? He was kicked out, and his face turned bright red with anger. Li Mo Bai had still not been able to see the crown prince, even if he were a man of extraordinary talent, and even if his essay were a masterpiece. Given his status, it would be impossible for him to meet His Highness the Crown Prince without a recommendation. But I still underestimated him. He befriended Dang Resheng, the chief eunuch. Not only did he recognize him as his godfather, but he also promised that the first son born to Jing Ke would take his surname and be sent to live with him. Li Mo Bai's 60-year-old mother fell ill from the shock, but Jing Ke stood by him. His essay was finally submitted to the crown prince as he had hoped. But the crown prince did not read it and had it discarded. The crown prince despised him. To accept a eunuch as one's father and sell one's own child, that shows a complete lack of scholarly integrity. Dang Resheng also secured a minor 7th-rank official post for Li Mo Bai. Although the Pa Sit-ion was lowly, many families were still willing to associate with him out of respect for the chief eunuch. The elderly lady of the Sui family, wife of General Jinwu, invited them to her home to celebrate her 70th birthday. I saw a magpie at the banquet. Her baby bump was already showing. She was wearing a loose, turquoise-green tunic and skirt made of fairly plain fabric, and the golden flying phoenix hairpin in her hair was the one I had given her back then. When she saw me looking at her, her face flushed slightly. People were saying, I really don't know what the new top scholar is thinking. How could he marry a maid? Exactly. She's not much to look at, doesn't have much presence, and seems timid and shy. Just look at that outfit. Not even my maids wear clothes like that. Some people even called out to her directly. Hey, aren't you going to pay your respects to your master? These people look down on Jing Ke and are jealous of her. Li Mo Bai is exceptionally talented and strikingly handsome, in both his past and present lives. There have been no shortage of people who have taken a liking to him. No one could have imagined that he would end up marrying a lowly maid. Jing Ke kept her head down, fingering the hem of her skirt over and over. Then, as if she could no longer hold back, she looked up and glanced at me quickly before getting up and walking over to me. Miss, I know you resent me, she said, her eyes red, but you shouldn't be inciting these people to humiliate me like this. After all, I am the wife of the top scholar. I found it funny. Why would I be jealous of you? My husband came in first place on the imperial examinations, while yours ranked 37th in the second class. You are of noble birth, while I am merely a maid. My husband is superior to yours. So naturally you feel resentful. She has her own way of thinking. I laughed. You're overthinking it. While top scholars are impressive, they're not exactly rare. Since the founding of our empire, we've had a total of 56 top scholars, and in 3 years' time, there'll be one more. You really don't need to think everyone is so special. Besides, I said, eyeing her up and down and curling the corners of my mouth, I can't stand a life of hardship. A burst of laughter filled the room. Jean Kay couldn't hold back her tears. She started crying and tried to run away. Swain Wan grabbed her just in time and glared at me. Keep your mouth shut. Don't cause trouble in my house. Pregnant. After all, she's the niece of the general of Jinwu. And we've never gotten along. She's always been vying with me for the title of the capital's most talented woman. It's not necessarily that she's sticking up for Jean Kay. She's just seizing every opportunity to give me a hard time. But my eyes stung, and my tone softened a little. All right. For your sake, I won't hold it against her. Swain Wan looked as if she'd seen a ghost. Nan Jinping. Did you take the wrong medicine? In a past life, the Sui family, just like our Nan family, was also caught up in a treason case. The difference was that the Sui family was not innocent. Swain Wan's eldest uncle, the general of Jinwu, had indeed colluded with Prince An and opened the gates wide when Prince An attacked Duanjing. Later, the Prince of An was defeated in battle. The general of Jinwu was killed by a hail of arrows. And the entire Sui family was executed. But because Swain Wan bore a slight resemblance to Jean Kay, Li Mo Bai rescued her and brought her into the inner quarters. Although she appeared to be at odds with me, she secretly helped me on several occasions. That time I was so sick I thought I was going to die. Li Mo Bai wouldn't let anyone call a doctor. She had deliberately made herself sick so she could take the opportunity to get medicine from the doctor. When Li Mo Bai threw me into the icy pond, she rushed forward, ready to jump in to save me. After Li Mo Bai stopped her, she shouted at me, Nan Jinping, hang in there. Zhao Sais has already cleared your family's name, and your eldest brother is about to return to the capital. You absolutely must not die. If you die, who will I fight against in the future? But I died anyway. I couldn't hold on. I stood up, and Jean Kay instinctively took a step back. I ignored her and hugged Swain Wan. I hereby declare that from now on, you are the most talented woman in Duanjing. I, Nan Jinping, humbly concede defeat. Swain Wan shivered. Nan Jinping, please don't do that. It scares me. Jean Kay left before the party was over. I ran after her, but she warily kept her distance from me. What are you trying to do? She asked, clutching her stomach. I chuckled softly. Have you noticed that you bear a certain resemblance to Swain Wan? Still, Swain Wan is more beautiful than you, has more poise, is more talented, and comes from a better family background. But I've heard that the older members of the Sui family don't think much of Li Mo Bai. The color drained from her face. You're trying to drive a wedge between us. You can ask Li Mo Bai, I said. She fled in a panic, her eyes brimming with tears. I know she won't ask. She was just a maid sold by her parents to a slave trader. Having betrayed her employers, she had no one to turn to but Li Mo Bai. Whether what I said was true or not, she didn't dare confront Li Mo Bai about it. She would simply observe from the sidelines. And then she would realize that Li Mo Bai did indeed treat Swain Wan differently. Women tend to overthink things during pregnancy, and they tend to blow every little detail out of proportion. She certainly won't have a moment's peace. A person's energy is limited. Since Li Mo Bai has to comfort and take care of her, he won't be able to attend to other matters as thoroughly. I turned around, and there was Swain Wan standing right behind me, frowning. What did you say to her? She looked like she'd seen a ghost. Nothing. Why are you acting so weird today? I didn't explain it to her. I just whispered. Your great-uncle seems to be associating with someone. Ask your father to keep an eye on him. She looked at me in terror. I took her hand, my expression serious. Your whole family's lives are at stake. You must keep this a secret. That's all I can say. The rest is up to their luck. Swain Wan was terrified, so she went to look for her father almost immediately. 2 months later, the two brothers from the Sui family became bitter enemies. It is said that this was because a high-ranking general of the Sui dynasty schemed to interfere with Swain Wan's marriage. Although his plan failed, the two families had a bitter falling out. Not only did they split up, but they also vowed never to have anything to do with each other for the rest of their lives. I'm very pleased. Swain Wan's father was a shrewd man, living under the same roof as General Sway. He would surely have picked up on some clues if he'd been paying attention. It's better to cut the knot cleanly, even if I'm dragged down by it later. I won't end up like I did in my past life. Swain Wan asked me to meet her at Zhuxianju and gave me an expensive set of jewelry. My dad said this is a thank you gift. I accepted it without hesitation. Her attitude toward me has changed a bit. And she's now willing to share some heartfelt thoughts with me. I don't know what's up with that Li Mo by every time he sees me. He gives me this weird look. Once he even called me Nguan Nguan, and my older brother scolded him until he ran off. Swain Wan's father was a lecturer at the Hanlin Academy, and the Crown Prince greatly enjoyed listening to him lecture on the classics and history. Li Mo Bai likely wanted to follow in his footsteps. After all, he had achieved very little through his godfather, Deng Resheng. And he had yet to gain the Crown Prince's favor. Having already risen to such a high position, he simply did not have the patience to wait several more years. Suddenly, there was a commotion coming from across the hall. The voices sounded familiar. So Swain Wan and I opened the door to take a look in, to our surprise. It was Li Mo Bai and Zhao Cizhe. It turned out that Li Mo Bai had somehow found out where the Crown Prince was and had followed him all the way to Zhuxianju. The guards stationed at the entrance refused to announce his arrival, and a scuffle broke out between the two. The Crown Prince, hearing the commotion from inside, sent Zhao Sais out to handle the situation. Zhao Sais didn't like Li Mo Bai to begin with. They'd barely exchanged a few words before they were about to come to blows. But when he suddenly saw me come out, he immediately held back. Jinping, why don't you come have dinner here too? His expression changed as if by magic. Just a moment ago he'd looked stern, but now he was smiling as warmly as a spring breeze. Their roasted squab is especially delicious. You've got to try it. He still had the energy to chat with me about food. Swain Wan replied offhandedly, sure, we'll order later. Today, I'm treating you, Jinping, to dinner. So just let me know if there's anything you'd like to eat. Zhao Sais actually did list a few dish names. After drinking, Li Mo Bai's anger flared up, and his courage soared. I said I want to see His Highness. Zhao Si scoffed. Do you think His Highness meets just anyone? Get out of here and interrupt my conversation with Sister Jinping. Li Mo Bai's anger was directed at me. Nan Jinping, did you say something to His Highness? After reading my essay, there's no way His Highness could have ignored me. Oh, must be holding a grudge and slandering me in front of him. Swain Wan looked at him in disbelief. What are you talking about? What does this have to do with Jinping? Li Mo Bai, however, spoke to her gently. Nguan, Miss Sui, stay away from Nan Jinping. She has a wicked heart, lacks both talent and virtue, and is deeply jealous. You're superior to her in every way. One day, she'll surely harm you. Sui Qiangqi's face turned red. Are you out of your mind? I wasn't angry at all. The fact that Li Mo Bai lost his composure like that just shows that he's falling apart mentally. But that's not enough. I asked, what policy proposal? Is it the one Your Highness had thrown away? Zhao Sais. Right. I'm not sure, but Jinping said that if it's lost, it's definitely lost. Even if it isn't lost, I'll just have His Highness make sure it's lost. I looked into his eyes and smiled tenderly at him. Li Mo Bai was so furious he lost his temper. Nan Jinping, don't make things harder on yourself. Didn't I warn you not to play games? You don't respect me at all. He completely confused his past life with his present one, thinking he was still a powerful minister high above everyone else. While having lost my family and everything I held dear was at his mercy, he raised his hand to hit me. Actually, he couldn't have hit me soon as he made a move. Zhao Sais was quick on the draw and kicked him, but I still let out a scream and fell to the ground. Since it was right next to the stairs, he rolled straight down them. He wasn't seriously injured, but he cut his forehead open, and blood was streaming down his face. It looked really shocking. Zhao Si was quick-witted and immediately struck first. Li Mo Bai, you have the audacity to attempt to murder the daughter of the Grand Tutor of the current court right in front of everyone. The noise was so loud that half the restaurant could hear it. Before Li Mo could say a word in his defense, he was grabbed by the collar like a little chicken thrown down from the second floor. I spent most of the month recuperating at home. My father stood before the emperor, weeping and sniveling as he denounced Li Mo's misdeeds. The Duke of Chang'an's household followed suit, and Sui Nuan's father also added insult to injury, while several censors joined in to bring charges against him. Finally, the crown prince said, "This boy's character is so vile that he is truly unworthy of being a disciple of the Son of Heaven." Consequently, the emperor stripped Li Mo of his title as top scholar and the official position he had worked so hard to obtain. Li Mo also became the first top scholar in the imperial examination to have his academic honors revoked since the founding of the Celestial Dynasty, a feat that has certainly gone down in history. I didn't expect Li Mo to want to see me again. I brought along a maid skilled in martial arts and instructed her, "If Li Mo harms me, kill him on the spot." But Li Mo didn't have the courage to do that. Zhao Sais threw him off the second floor of the restaurant, and he injured his leg in the fall. Because he did not receive prompt medical treatment, he was left with a limp. He limped over to me, still wearing that sky blue long robe that had been washed until it was almost white, with patches on the cuffs. "Jinping," he said, looking haggard. With a scruffy beard and noticeably thinner, a far cry from the spirited top scholar he once was. I misjudged her and was deceived. It turns out Jing Ke has been lying to me all along. She only knows a few characters. She can't write poetry, paint, or play the zither. "You've always been the one I love." Jing's words may have fooled him for a time, but they couldn't fool him forever. Spending every day together. It was only a matter of time before her deception was exposed. "I know you still have feelings for me. The fact that you used manwho to drive a wedge between us proves that you still care about me." "Jinping," he called out to me tenderly. "You've already cost me my official rank. It's time for you to let go of your anger. I promise you, I will marry you. I will marry you of my own free will. From now on, we'll live a good life together, and I'll make you a first-rank noble lady." The envy of all of Duanjing. Men, sometimes I really envy their confidence. I just stared at him, speechless. What about the startled magpie? Seeing that I had responded, he was overjoyed and immediately said, "She was the one who deceived me into marriage in the first place. By not divorcing her, I've already done her justice. For the sake of her pregnancy, I'll keep her as a concubine. After all, she used to serve you, so she'll continue to serve you from now on." I couldn't help but burst out laughing. "Li Mo, in your past life, you endured a decade of suffering to avenge Jing Ke. I thought your love for her ran deeper than the sea and higher than the mountains. But I never imagined it was nothing more than this. For the sake of wealth and prestige, you're actually willing to demote your wife to a concubine. Haha. How ridiculous. Do you think I'm some kind of cheap woman? You're just a commoner. Penniless. What makes you think I'd choose you over the young master of the Lord Chang'an's household?" His face turned pale, then flushed, alternating between the two. I continued to provoke him. "Didn't you say you rose to such a high position without the help of our family? Now you see you're just a freeloader. Without our family, you're nothing. That's all you'll ever amount to in this life. As long as our prime minister's household stands, you'll never get anywhere near the crown prince. You'll never make it big." Li Mo didn't make an appearance for quite some time after that, until the Prince of An arrived in the capital. Prince An is the youngest brother of His Majesty the Emperor, only 4 years older than the crown prince. Compared to the crown prince, who is diligent in his duties and eager to learn, Prince An is the exact opposite. He excels neither in scholarship nor in martial arts, and spends his days eating, drinking, and carousing, having even caused several scandals. But it was all just a facade. In his previous life, no one had ever suspected his sinister ambitions until he raised an army and rebelled. The Prince of An's fief was in Anyang. He was not permitted to enter the capital without being summoned. Only during the Lunar New Year, in accordance with ancestral tradition, would he travel to the capital to spend 2 to 3 months with his mother, Grand Consort Mu. He shared a deep bond with Consort Mu, and in his previous life, He did not rebel until after her death. The person I sent to keep an eye on Li Mo reported that Li Mo had secretly defected to the Prince of In. I breathed a sigh of relief. Li Mo certainly didn't disappoint me, having already tasted the sweetness of power. How could he possibly be content to spend his life as just an ordinary citizen? If he cannot win the Crown Prince's favor, he can win the Prince of An's favor. No one knew better than he did that the Prince of An would rebel 10 years later and nearly storm the imperial city. It was he who, risking his life, went alone to the enemy camp, undermined the trust between the Prince of An and his military strategist, turned them against each other, and threw their troops into chaos, allowing the Crown Prince the opportunity to lead his forces and wipe them out in one fell swoop. He played a pivotal role in the exoneration and is a great hero to the people. That is precisely why no one doubted his later testimony against my father. Eve. N knelt outside the Hall of Diligent Governance to plead for my father's mercy, banging his head until it bled profusely. It was only because he refused the reward that my family, the Nans, was spared from having every member executed. What a loyal and devoted man. Who would have thought he'd act one way to your face and another behind your back? I haven't mentioned to the Crown Prince that Prince An is planning a rebellion, without evidence. Making baseless accusations against the imperial family will only make the Crown Prince resent me. Besides, even though Prince An is a bit of a scatterbrain, he's been extremely kind to the Crown Prince. He even saved the Crown Prince's life once. The Crown Prince dotes on this younger uncle as much as he can and will never tolerate anyone slandering him. Li Mo knew this. 2. He wasn't the least bit afraid that I would rat him out. In fact, he was practically hoping I would. There's not a trace of what's going to happen 10 years from now. He was absolutely certain that, without his intervention in this lifetime, Prince An would surely succeed in his rebellion and ascend to the throne. And because of his role in supporting the new ruler, he would undoubtedly rank second to none. Although I didn't tell the Crown Prince, I did tell my father. I told him I'd had a nightmare. But my dad thought I was just letting my imagination run wild and didn't take me seriously. But when I predicted what would happen over the next few days, he started to take me more seriously. After Prince An arrived in the capital, just as he had done in previous years, he used the pretext of feasting and revelry to cultivate relationships with many court officials. Since my father loved ancient paintings, Prince An would send him one every year. This year, we're giving away Wang Guanqian's landscape of the river and mountains. In my past life, it was this painting that became irrefutable evidence of my father's collusion with the Prince of An. Hidden inside the rod of this mounted scroll is a letter from the Prince of An bribing my father. It wasn't there originally. Li Mo seized it from the Prince of An amid the chaos and secretly hid it inside. The painting is real, the letter is real, but the story is fake. My father couldn't defend himself. In this lifetime, thanks to my warning, my father flatly rejected the Prince of An's overtures. During the New Year's Eve banquet held at the palace, he sold the ancient painting the Prince of An had previously given him to several other court officials who were connoisseurs of ancient art, and donated every last penny of the proceeds to the soldiers on the frontier. My father was highly praised by the emperor for his noble character and selfless dedication to the people, and was hailed as a role model for all officials. This prompted the other ministers to reluctantly make donations as well. Li Mo noticed all these little maneuvers by the Prime Minister's office, but he didn't care in the least. What good would it do to distance oneself from the Prince of Heian? Once the Prince of Heian ascends the throne when he is second only to the Emperor and above all others, what would it matter to settle accounts with a single chancellor's household? During the first lunar month, Jing Ke gave birth to a son, whom Li Mo handed over to Deng Rushing immediately after he was born. On the surface, his entire family now depends on Deng Rushing, having lost his official position and salary. He has no choice but to work as a laborer in Deng Rushing's shop. Jing Ke had barely finished her postpartum confinement when she had to start doing laundry for others to earn a living. Her fingers were frozen red and swollen, compared to when she was my maid. It was like night and day. I ran into her on the street. She was dressed lightly, wearing no jewelry at all. She had lost a lot of weight. Her complexion was sallow and haggard, and her eyes were dull and lifeless. She didn't look at all like a woman who had just given birth. I invited her to dinner at Zuixinlu, but the food made her so sick she almost threw up. In the end, She collapsed onto the table and sobbed. Miss. I regret it. I shouldn't have pretended to be you to seduce him. I could faintly hear voices talking next door, of course. The soundproofing wasn't normally this bad. I'd tampered with it a bit and her crying stopped abruptly. She recognized Lee Mobai's voice. Lee Mobai is now penniless. How could he possibly afford to eat at such an expensive restaurant? Brother Lee, you really do have a knack for predicting the future. In such a short time. You've become the prince's right-hand man. On this trip back to his fiefdom, the prince even made a special point of instructing you to bring your family along. As you continue to rise through the ranks, Brother Lee, please don't forget your little brother. Lee Mobai's triumphant laughter rang out deafeningly. Definitely, definitely. He paused for a moment. Anyang is a long way off. My mother is advanced in age and cannot make the journey, and my wife must stay behind to care for her. So we won't be going with you. The man immediately let out a lecherous laugh. In that case, Brother Lee must surely need someone to look after him. I wonder what kind of beauty Brother Lee prefers. That way, I can have the people in Anyang make the necessary preparations in advance. Lee Mobai thought for a moment. Do you know the eldest daughter of the Sui family? So that's what Brother Lee likes. Someone like the Prime Minister's daughter would be acceptable, I suppose. Got it. Got it. Next came the clinking of glasses. The magpie's expression shifted from surprise to delight, then to disappointment and anger, and finally to despair. His eyes, which had never had any light in them to begin with, grew even more lifeless. Miss, what should I do? What should I do? She murmured to me. On March 12th, Prince An set out for Anyang. Half a month later, the Prince of An's biological mother, Grand Consort Mu of the palace, was poisoned to death. After a thorough investigation, suspicion fell on one of Grand Consort Mu's personal maids. Under torture, the maid confessed that she had been instructed by Mr. Wu, a man close to the Prince of An. On the surface, Mr. Wu was a retainer of the Prince of An. But in reality, he was his military strategist and was held in very high regard by the Prince of An. Consort Mu had always been in poor health and had been bedridden for many years. Yet she simply would not die. Mr. Wu had waited for many years, but finally lost patience. In his previous life, he had had someone administer a slow-acting poison that took a full 2 years to gradually sap Consort Mu's vitality. With the death of Consort Mu, Prince An, now free of all inhibitions, raised an army and staged a rebellion. But Lee Mobai uncovered the truth and, at the critical moment, dealt the Prince of An a fatal blow, causing the Prince of An and Mr. Wu to become bitter enemies. In his previous life, Mr. Wu didn't take action until 7 or 8 years later. But Lee Mobai couldn't wait that long, so he acted sooner. It was also a slow-acting poison that would take effect in about a year. But I had someone replace it with a highly toxic substance. Why did the Prince of An's retainer plot to kill his master's biological mother? As the Crown Prince continued his investigation, he traced the leads back to Lee Mobai, only to discover that he had actually followed the Prince of An to Anyang. His wife voluntarily confessed that before Lee Mobai left, he had given her a ledger and instructed her to keep it safe, adding that they would soon rise to great heights. That ledger documented the gifts and favors exchanged between the Prince of An and officials at the court and in various regions. The amounts involved were staggering. Is there anything else the Crown Prince doesn't understand? First, they took control of the general of Jinwu, then dispatched messengers on fast horses to ride day and night, arriving in Anyang ahead of the Prince of An and raiding his mansion. Not only did they uncover the Prince of An's illegally made imperial robe, but they also discovered that he had been secretly training troops and stockpiling weapons. Solid evidence of a rebellion. Prince An and his entourage were captured along the way and taken back to Duanjing. Lee Mobai's dream of being second to none, rising above everyone else, had barely begun to take root when I crushed it. He's too confident. I don't have any evidence, but I could frame someone. The night before Lee Mobai was beheaded, I went to see him in prison. He leaned against the wall in confusion, banging his head against it again and again, muttering, "No, no. What went wrong? It's not supposed to be like this. It shouldn't be." He didn't react at all when he saw me. With a self-deprecating heh, he said, "Did you come here to laugh at me? I'm here to make sure you die knowing the truth." He suddenly realized what was happening and stared at me in disbelief. "It's you." Then he shook his head. "That's impossible. You couldn't possibly know about that ledger. It won't appear for another 10 years. There was indeed such a ledger in a past life. After the Prince of An was executed, Liemo kept it hidden and did not turn it in. He intended to use it to keep officials who had been in cahoots with the Prince of An in check, holding them over his knee to make them work for him. He also never mentioned to me the cause of Empress Dowager Mu's death. Nwan told me," I said, gazing quietly at him. "You treat Nwan like a stand-in. You tell her everything, but she tells me everything. I forged the ledger." On the day I returned, I relied on my memories from my past life to transcribe the contents of that ledger from memory, not word for word, but more or less. Liemo burst out laughing. "So that's how it is. So that's how it is. I've actually been defeated by the woman I love." He laughed so hard that tears came to his eyes. I laughed too. "Don't insult Nwan. What right do you have to love her? And as for Jing K, you probably don't know this, but my plan went so smoothly thanks to her cooperation." "Jing K," he roared furiously. "That bitch, what have I ever done to her to deserve this betrayal? She's just a maid who married the top scholar in the imperial exams. What more could she possibly want? That bitch, send her here to see me. Send her here to see me. I'm afraid she won't be able to come," I said, "because she exposed the corruption. The crown prince commuted her death sentence. She's since married a wealthy merchant from out of town and left long ago. It's just a pity for your elderly mother they didn't even have to execute the entire family. She was so enraged by you that she died on the spot." He froze in shock, then suddenly exploded. "You venomous woman. Venomous woman. My mother never did anything wrong to you. Why did you kill her? I'm going to kill you." "What are you talking about?" I said. "You're the one who killed your mother. You're the one who wanted to rebel. What does that have to do with me?" He slid helplessly to the ground, his eyes vacant, with nothing but 2 streams of murky tears. I turned around, took a couple of steps, then looked back. "Oh, right, I forgot to tell you. Your godfather, Dang Resheng, is one of my men, too. 6 months after Liemobai's death, Zhao Si and I got married. She then immediately gave me 10,000 taels of dowry silver to thank me for saving her entire family. On our wedding night, he asked me, supposing if Liemobai had asked for your hand back then, would you have said yes, without batting an eye?" I lied. "Of course not. He's no match for you in any way. Why would I choose him? Besides, I know you've liked me since we were kids," he said shyly. "Oh my. Then why haven't you ever mentioned it to me?" "Because my love only began when we got married." I asked him. "Why are you suddenly asking this question?" "I had a dream," he said as he kissed me. "It was terrifying, but thank goodness it was just a dream.